Hello and welcome. Turkey is the model of a secular Islamic country for many, but a battle for control of the nation's destiny is playing out in the courts there. It's a struggle between Islam and secularism, with the largest political party in the country on one side and the military establishment on the other. Due to its strategic location straddling the continents of Europe and Asia, Turkey's culture has always been a unique blend of Eastern and Western tradition. The foundations of a democratic and staunchly secular state were laid by the founder of modern-day Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, after the fall of the Islamic Empire in World War I. Well, recently there's been a rising tension pitting the country's Muslim roots against its secular policies. Now the ruling Justice and Development Party, known as the AKP, stands accused in the nation's constitutional court, charged with going against those secular values and trying to impose Islamic law in Turkey. Those charges stem from the AKP's push to allow girls to wear the hijab, the Muslim headscarf, at public universities. Prosecutors are asking that the AKP and dozens of its top leaders, including Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan and President Abdullah Gül, be banned from Turkish politics. In our discussion today, we ask, how does Islam find its place in a secular country such as Turkey? And don't forget, we take your calls on this show, and you can reach us at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. Joining me for a look at the current situation in Turkey is Dr. Ibrahim Kalin, the director of the Foundation for Political, Economic and Social Research in Ankara, from where he joins us. In New York, we have Dr. Akif Kireçi, who teaches politics and history at the Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. Dr. Kireçi is also the editor of the journal Contemporary Turkish Culture. And with me here in Washington, D.C. is Tulin Dalolu, a Turkish journalist based in the U.S. Capitol and a columnist for the Washington Times. I welcome all of you and start with Dr. Ibrahim Kalin in Ankara, and start by pointing out there wasn't much progress made in the court today. That was pretty much overshadowed by the arrest of the 24 people over the alleged coup to overthrow the AKP party. Now, what does that indicate about the level of where things have got in Turkey right now?
According to the report so far, the prosecutor hasn't said anything new, actually. He has stated his indictment, his positions, his proofs and allegations and everything in indictment. So there was nothing new. And you're right, this morning, actually, the capturing of this 20-some plus people, some old army generals included, caused some debate. But the main issue here remains as, a legal court case, but everybody knows that, it's taking place within a political context. And you stated in your presentation that this is a debate or struggle between Islam and secularism. It's really a little bit more complicated than that. The real struggle here is between the reformists and the establishment. And the reformists are just pushing Turkey towards the European Union on the one hand, towards greater involvement in the Middle East on the other hand. All these things require a kind of a more stronger, staunch democratic structure in Turkey. But the establishment just fears, actually, and feels threatened by the new realities of Turkey. And it's difficult to call it a struggle between Islamists and secularists because, the liberals and some other communities in Turkey, intellectuals, writers, etc., all support the reform process. And the court case has come right in the middle of this process of normalization, and everybody was saying that maybe things are just moving ahead in Turkey, but it showed that you can never take anything for granted in Turkey.
True, it is much more complex. And I put to Tulin Dalolu, thank you very much for joining us. Looking at the news of the day and considering how difficult and complex that situation is, as outlined by Dr. Kalin, what do you see happening now with these arrests? What do you see, how do you see the next steps? I mean, the court, as we've heard, hasn't said much today. There's another appearance in court on Thursday.
I think I would say, the last thing that I would say at the very beginning, that nothing seems promising, that the state is failing. On either side, if you look at the case that's open against the Justice and Development Party, which has been elected by the popular majority in Turkey in July 2007 elections, which came into power by 47% of the Turkish population, that there is a case now in the Constitution Court for its closure. Now, in democratic ideals, I think it's counter to democratic ideals to respond a challenge by questioning political parties or banning politicians, which Turkey has done in the past numerous times, and we are still repeating on the same thing. But having said that, on the other side, you also, talk about the other arrests. Today that took place for another case where, allegedly that there is a group who's trying to bring down the government. Now, there is no indictment on that case. So we do not know by fact what exactly the prosecutor, the state prosecutor, is arresting these individuals.
Right.
What evidence does he have, and what are the allegations that these individuals are being put to? So without having any of the facts in front of us, what we do see is that Turkey's state institutions are being weakened by this dilemma. And on one side, Turkey's constitutional court case on the hijab or on the headscarf, which it ruled about a month ago right now. Which turned down the parliament's decision to lift the ban on headscarves in higher education. I think that brought a question both domestically and internationally on the credibility of Turkey's constitution court. So this is a state institution. And a very important one, so it's getting weakened, and that's not good for Turkey.
I'll get onto that in a second. I wanted to touch more on that issue in a moment, but before I get a caller on the line, let me get to Dr. Akif Kurechi and ask about how you see the developments. How surprised are you? It seems the government, at least the ruling parties, pretty much embattled from a number of sides now. We've got the attempted coup allegations, we've got the court case taking place. How surprised are you that things have ended up where they have, especially considering Turkey's people voted in a fairly large majority for the ruling party?
Turkey is an interesting country. Turkey cannot live without crises, it seems. The battle between the secularist elite and the AKP was not the question of when, but not the question of if, but the when. So the current situation actually was expected at some point, but the constitutional court, the accusations of the current leadership of the AK Party actually is not based on any kind of criminal conduct, but rather the political statements, the speeches that they made.
Well,
so
we get on.
Currently,
yeah, I'll get onto that again. I'll get onto that. I want to flesh that out. Let me get a couple of viewer calls in there. We've got Nigeria on the line with a question. So go ahead, caller in Nigeria, please.
Okay. I was going to say that if Turkey wants to join the EU, I think they will be hurting the chances of joining the EU if they make Turkey an Islamic state. Because part of the conditions I think EU would set down is that if Turkey wants to be a member, it should be a secular state. And if it's an Islamic state, it's going to ruin or jeopardize the chances of becoming an Islamic state or becoming a member of the EU.
Let me put that to Dr. Ibrahim Kalin and ask about that. I mean, the implications. I mean, Turkey looking like it's getting into such a mess in effect politically and perhaps constitutionally even. Looking at the implications for the secular nature of the nation. What impact does this have on Turkey trying to position itself as a potentially solid member of the European Union?
The fact that European officials have been very clear and loud about the court case shows that, in fact, the European elite, in spite of some opposition to Turkey coming from Germany and France, in fact, is in favor of Turkey full membership in the European Union. That created some debate in Turkey whether the European officials were interfering into the domestic affairs of Turkey. But basically, Turkey is not a country that is thinking about applying for membership. Turkey is a negotiating candidate at the moment. Therefore, we need to be prepared for this kind of statements, positions coming from European officials if you are going to take the European membership seriously. Secondly, the court case issue. Turkey, as Mrs. Tulin pointed out, has closed down more than 24 parties in the past. None of them has solved the political crises in Turkey. And if they close down our party at this time, AK Party will come back. They will regroup and re-emerge under a new party, probably with a similar leadership. But what happens in the meantime is that people's belief and confidence in the democratic system diminishes because there is another court case against the Kurdish party, the so-called Kurdish DTP party. And if the court closes that party too, then what basically the court and the establishment is telling to about millions of people, at least 20 million people around among the voters, that I don't like the parties that you're voting for. So you will be eliminating the vast majority of Turkish voters. You will be eliminating the Kurdish constituency, and then creating all kinds of problems about civil liberties, human rights records in Turkey. etc. So, you know, this court case, of course, is part of a larger debate about secularism in Turkey. You know, how Turkey is going to preserve its secular state while at the same time respecting civil liberties, increasing the sphere of human rights, religious freedom, etc. But so far, the establishment's understanding and definition of secularism has been a very tight one, very almost dogmatic, ideological,
right.
and their definition of the state has been kind of almost obfuscating for anyone, you know, asking for more freedom and liberties in Turkey.
Let's see if Abdullah's on the line from London. I'll get your response in a sec. But let's see if Abdullah's on the line from London with his question or comment. Abdullah.
Yeah, my name is Abdullah from London.
Okay.
I just want to find out the difference between being a secular state and a liberal state.
Okay. We'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to take a break, so if you want the answer, stay with us. We'll be right back with more on this debate.